Anirban, how do you break the ice at one of your learning and development sessions?
I always start with a game or
Okay,
some fun activity because I believe that people, when they get into a session, they just need to become they need to be put at ease so that
right,
they can kind of get into the learning mode.
right, right. Great. And every mentor has grown from someone who was their mentor. In your case, who has it been?
The greatest mentor that I had in my life was my dad. I always I feel that there are a lot of great leaders with whom I have worked with, and it has been I've learned a lot from them during my career. I'm referring to, but my father, I think the way he kind of taught me certain things, the foundation I believe is what he has laid down.
Wonderful, because there's nothing like having a mentor at home who has not just, taught you the basics of life, but actually embellished your entire professional career. And there's that, I think, is a wonderful, marvelous stroke of luck. So that's where we'll begin. How do organizations learn? How do they grow and adapt? Apart from the daily grind, there are new skills people need to master. Our guest today has deep experience in determining what those skills are, and we'll focus on that during the conversation. Anirban Banerjee is Group Vice President of Human Resources at Goodrich Maritime and has over 2 decades of experience in creating and delivering learning and development programs. He thinks and writes about culture and organization psychology for major media organizations. He mentors startups, not just in India, but in Singapore and Israel. If you're interested in HR, this episode will give you an idea of the range of possibilities in developing and bringing out the best in people. So, Anirban, welcome to the show.
Thank you, my pleasure, and it's an honor to be here on the show.
Great, Anirban. So, where did this begin? Where exactly did you think that learning and development would be what you were interested in doing?
I was actually initially very keen to because my dad was in the Air Force. So during my school days, I was keen to join the Air Force, and but my mom was not at all in favor of that. All my uncles and everybody were in defense. So my dad actually observed few things about me, and he told that there are a lot of these kids who are into junior classes. They often used to come to me whenever they had a problem or whenever whatever they needed. So as I progressed, I went into my graduation. I did my graduation in economics honors. My father told me that uh, I think you should do an MBA, and you should do an MBA in human resource. I'm talking about this was in the 90s when HR had was non-existence in India, and the only thing that HR people used to do was admin work. Actually, to be very honest,
Right.
and it told that in future, maybe 5 years, 10 years down the line, by the time you graduate and you get into the field, it will see a lot of change because without developing the people part of the business cannot grow to the next level, and therefore it's going to be a very critical aspect of business. It's going to be seen more as a partner of the business rather than just a function, what it used to be earlier. So that is how I
Amazing. That's amazing,
started.
Anirban, that your father was farsighted enough to understand that a profession which didn't kind of exist in the form that it is there today was actually something that he saw, which is, I'm not too
Yes.
sure too many young people have that kind of luck.
And I think that I also enjoy this. So,
Right.
uh, when I did my went for my B school interview, they asked me this question: that why HR? Why not? Because I'm talking about the late '90s, the last few years of '90s when tech was in the boom. Everybody wanted to kind of get into something which is into technology, uh, finance, marketing. So I said that I would like to work with people to solve their problems so that the business can focus onto the core part of what they have to do.
Okay.
So, fortunately, I have not lost my job in my career till now because of the need has existed in the business and I have grown my skills.
Okay. So, what was your first job? And do you remember how you got it?
Yes, I got my first job. I had an offer from Nerolac Paints when I was doing my MBA. But that time, paint company was not something that people of my generation or my age understood much. And
Okay.
instantly, it was Nerolac Paints Chennai, the city that you belong to. And I thought to myself that I can probably go and survive in China, but Chennai is a very difficult place for me. So I had done my project in a company which was a startup, which is a small company called Applitech Solution in Ahmedabad,
Okay.
the city that I have been brought up in. And the guy under whom I did my internship was among the first few people in India who had done a doctorate in artificial intelligence, and throughout he had been throughout in UK. So when I was doing the internship, he told me that if you are interested, we are a smaller organization. We are not a brand like Nerolac or any of the like what B schools people prefer, but you can come and work with us. And what I found interesting is that it was a small company, so all aspects of HR I would have got an exposure into, and also to
Okay.
work with many key people in the company. So when I joined that company, that was my first, and from a 50 people company, it became close to 350 people in just a span of 2 years. So that was great learning for me. And Dr. Mukesh Patel was my first manager, and he was an amazing person that I got a chance to work with.
Okay. So, what were the things that you saw develop in the organization when it grew from 50 to 350?
The biggest learning when I look back now that I see is, you know, the best way to grow is to hire good people and then try to fit them into what you want to do with. People who have got some potential, it is very easy to mold them and give them certain skills so that you can accelerate your business. You can do what you want to do without need for monitoring too much, or getting into the hustle of managing people too much. So
Right.
the phenomenal growth that company had in those 2 years became possible only because of this fundamental philosophy. Because otherwise,
Okay.
it is very difficult to manage people who are in the early 20s if you grow the numbers like that.
Right. Right. Which brings me to another question that is, you can have sessions with people, intense workshops, which go on for 8 hours and you teach them. But how do you ensure that the learning for each person would be different? So, how do you actually manage to ensure that some of these learnings are brought into the job and how is that monitored?
Yes. See, this is the fundamental shift that is happening in the domain of learning and development, or any
Okay.
matter for development. I have designed and implemented programs which we have done for Indian School of Business for a corporate in my earlier tenure with the company. Uh, we have done the same thing for along with Symbiosis Institute of Management for functional. There have been programs which ran for 1 year. Once in a quarter, people had to travel for 5 days, be there in the workshop. I think that phase is gradually getting over
Okay.
because two reasons. One is the way we function right now, the way we work right now. It is very difficult to bring out people who you want to teach something for a very long period of time.
Okay.
And the other two things is it is feasible to impart the same thing in a modular manner spread over a period of time in lesser duration. So I specialize
Okay.
in something called maybe a 2 hour half a day session or you know, three half a day sessions spread over 3 months.
Okay.
And why this has happened, just to give you a little deeper understanding, transformation, change, or development is an observation which can happen over a period of time. It's not necessarily that by bringing people into a workshop which is spread for 8 hours, as you mentioned, for 2 days, that they would be able to absorb everything because not
Right.
everybody comes from the same educational background. The impact of the social background that they come from also plays a vital role in their understanding of some of the concepts of what you are trying to teach them during this 2 days of 8 hours. And if
Right.
it is too intensive, no, because this is also a lot of people talk about it. You know that 2 days we will put those people into 10 to 12 hours workshop. Now, the stress of that 10 to 12 hours being in there becomes so much that learning becomes secondary. And you get onto a mode that where you have to show that you are, you have to perform as if you are in some kind of a simulation exercise. So the idea is to, and the way we are changing, the businesses and everything are evolving right now, requires understanding that how much people are able to learn, whether it's 2 hours, 4 hours, and then to kind of tactically position the next module accordingly. So that, see, if you have 20 people in the session, the learning is not going to be of the same level because uh, no two individuals are the same caliber, intelligence, or whatever way you look at that. So you will have to just make sure that the maximum is absorbed by them. And I think the third thing that you asked uh, is kind of how do we kind of make sure that they are able to absorb it, implement it at work, if I understood you right.
Right.
It is very important that this entire thing is structured in a manner that they learn a module, go back into the work, they execute it. That's where they get their motivation. That's where
Okay.
you will realize that whether what you are doing is just a merely an academic exercise or actually it is benefiting the people. And it is only when
Okay.
this happens, then you don't have the challenge of, you know, promoting training or promoting development in the organization. Rather, you will be able to, you will have the buy-in. Maybe first year
Right.
in the company, people who I have been into organizations where training is not known to them in the way that training exists in the rest of the world. But they take probably year or year and a half, and then they start realizing that no, this is how it works, and this helps. So there is a greater buy that happens.
Okay. So let me give you a couple of scenarios. One is that the company that is looking at learning and development needs to build skills in a hurry because it could be a greenfield venture. It could be something where there isn't enough domain expertise available in the market to begin with. The other is that, okay, let me ask you that question first and then come to the next one.
Hmm. Yes.
How would
I
you
think this
go
is
about it? Yeah,
Yeah, I think this is a problem that a lot of organizations, because you see, you are getting into new business ventures, which
right.
and as a kind of people expand and kind of do things. Uh, Speed mentoring is one of the thing that uh, where you have a small pool of talent, you have the experience of what your organizations does, its core belief, its culture. You bring those people to groom another set of people who can be absorbed. If you don't want to hire the entire set of people externally, then what
Okay,
happens, you divide it into bucket, that what percentage of people, or what at what level of people you will bring from external sources, and what kind of people you will move to from within the organization to this. I'll tell you a very interesting. One of the conglomerates that I was working, they moved from the port business to a varied range of businesses. And this is the
okay,
model that we kind of followed. We brought in a mix of people who were already there in the organization, and we had to grow them. And we brought another two layers, the middle layer, which is from the outside, where some kind of experience or a relatively similar experience existed. Now, there are many sectors in India where you will have to depend entirely on a relative experience. I'll give you an example. When the telecom industry started in India, telecom did not exist in India. So what do?
right.
You bring in people from FMCG background, because
Hmm.
that's the way people, you see the what are the behavioral traits that would be required in that function. Skills are
Right.
not so difficult to kind of impart. And the other thing that organizations miss a lot many times is that they do not focus on hiring from the campuses and effectively retain those people, because they are your foot soldiers. If you are able to kind of do that, the third layer of it perfectly, or if not perfectly, in a reasonable way, only then you will be able to expand into new geographies as well as into new domains of businesses.
Okay, okay. The A kind of follow-up question to where you started, which is you talked of 8 and 12 hour sessions. Do you believe there is a role for that kind of a session?
I think people have, over a period of time, are beginning to realize in the company that when they are put into those kind of things, and see, what's the point of doing that if people, after coming back, by the time they have come back and 4 days have gone, they have completely, everything has gone out of their mind. So the entire investment just goes down the drain. And I tell you, there have been researchers now. So this is not something that uh, is not known widely. People have been pouring billions, literally billions of dollars in building team. Now, before you build a team, there has to be, the first layer is that people have to connect, people have to build rapport, and then only they can form a team. So
Right.
directly by putting someone in a strange set of people into a room for 2 days, you don't build a team. So there is a process before that, and there is a process after that which has to be adhered to. And that is how you have to strategically position what you want to give. So every training module or every training topic has to be structured accordingly.
Great. I'm talking to Anirban Banerjee about a career in learning and development. And in the previous segment, he spoke about how his career aspirations began at home with his father being his mentor and his father being farsighted enough to understand, even in the 90s, that HR would be an important profession as the country grew and the number of companies recruiting and requiring people with skills grew. He spoke of being in a small company which started with just 50 people and then in a matter of 3 years, 2 or 3 years, went to 350 people. This is vital experience for understanding how companies grow. And what he focuses on is how do you identify people? How do you identify what they need to do? And how do you give them the skills? He spoke of how this 8 and 12-hour sessions are proven to not deliver at the level they used to earlier because it was almost like a jamboree where people went away for training for 3, 4 days and came back, and whether they implemented anything was not really clear. And he spoke of how you recruit or make people within an organization from an allied sector, so that you get the behavioral trace and skills can always be added. In the next segment, I'm going to talk to him about how he understands what is required to build a team in learning and development. So if you've liked what you've listened to so far, please do share, subscribe, and spread the word and let your people know, because this is a profession which will always have relevance, because it's not as if organizations are going to go out of style. This is the way to do things, and there is always going to be a future for people who look at HR. So, Anirban, can you tell me
Can we
what?
take a
Yeah,
minute break?
pardon me,
Can we take a minute break?
Anirban. How do you decide what exactly you want to focus on in terms of learning and development? How does the input come to you, and how do you decide what needs to happen?
There are obviously two very traditional ways of getting the input is when the appraisal happens in the organization.
Okay,
And the other one is the business planning exercise that happens.
okay,
Both will give you data or pointers on what are the skill gaps and how do we kind of what do you want to do about it. I feel that over a period of time there are maybe another two layers have got added and which I believe are very important. Uh, the appraisal data basically comes from the managers and their interpretation of the people working with them, that where they stand and where they need to go. The the business strategy will give you data that okay, the business is moving into particular direction. These are the new geographies or new are the new domains that we need to add or layers in the organization that you want to add. So that will give you more about what's the end objective and then you plan backward. The third thing which is very important is the HR heads must have a very deep understanding of the behavioral issues in the organization, the culture issues in the organization. Because just like no two people are the same, based on how people behave or how what kind of cultural values that they come with, uh, learning has to be customized and focused in a very unique way. So that will give you the real information to make the learning strategies successful. And I think where HR people sometimes misses out, and even the learning and development people, is that they once they have come up with a plan, they feel that we make too many changes. What will the managers think? That we are not clear about what we are trying to do. The management might think something differently. Uh, the actual success lies because we are dealing with humans and with artificial intelligence and everything that is coming into play. There's a huge opportunity that is there right now to kind of leverage
right,
the potential. And you
right,
have to understand that you should be prepared for tactical changes as you progress during the year with your plan. So there is no point in being too fixated about that. No, we thought of doing this way, so we'll do it this way. Make changes, be flexible with.
Can you recall an example without giving names or the context as to how behavioral issues can affect the organization and when it is not held in check?
Yes, I think this is something that I have seen throughout all 25 years of my career. Uh, Behavioral issues are at the core of the organization because you spend 10 to 12 hours in the office today. Your perception of the company is very vital to its brand. It is also very vital to whether the organization is operating at a level of productivity that you want to operate. Because if there are behavioral issues, it spreads out. And I'll give you a very specific example. A couple of years back, I was working with an organization, and they had these people, certain managers, where the attrition was very high. Now, if the attrition under certain managers are very high, then that needs to be addressed. Now, if you expect that, obviously training can be a way to kind of help people understand that, but then there is something that training cannot do also. This is also very important for us to understand.
Understand,
So
yeah.
behavioral issues, why I brought this point out is will also give you an understanding that to what extent, what kind of training, and if with training something else also is required to be done.
Okay. Now, let me give you a scenario and then tell me what you would advise in such a situation. An organization has two stars in two different departments. Both of them are essential to the functioning of the organization, but they can't get along with each other. So, what is the approach to solving it at the attitude level?
I think this is something that I'm seeing over a period of time that has become more like a norm that everybody has different levels of difficulty with each other. Now, see, there are
Right.
two ways of making. I think individuals clash and individuals, what you mentioned make things dysfunctional only when everything is revolves around those two individuals in their function. The moment it is
Okay.
more process oriented and there is a very clear laid down guidelines. See, it can happen that I may dislike someone and I can keep my dislike, I can be critical of him, everything is there. From the organizational context, as long as it is not impacting the functioning of the department or the organization, we will have our likes and dislikes because we live in times where socially, politically, extreme opinions are kind of getting more accepted. The middle ground
Okay.
is shrinking. I think we have to see it in a larger context. So people, many times people don't like, okay, you are from that community or that culture, so I you have an inherent bias. So when we see of this two different very strong opinions, I've seen two parts of it. One is that we have a difference of opinion on policy that can be sorted out. It will not be forever. It will, as they move on, it will change. But social biases are much more difficult to contain and make people understand that they have to acclimatize to this kind of things. So there has to
Okay.
be very strong processes around it. And
Okay.
very important, culture or what you kind of mentioned is contained and controlled by two very important people in the company, the CEO and the CHRO. As long as they have a very firm mind and they are very clear that they will be fair, then there is the issues are always kind of controlled, and people never cross the line. Otherwise, things get murky.
Spiral out of control. Okay, great. So let me ask you a question as to, do you think conflict resolution is part of learning and development, or do you think it's part of the management process?
There are two parts of it. One is that there are occasions where people come and say that, okay, how do I kind of have that critical conversation in a manner which is kind of going to lead to a solution to that. The other part of it, and this has been my learning, people at certain level, they are like children. Just like kids learn from their parent, people learn from their past bosses and the superiors in that organization. So if they see a culture where conflicts are managed in a mature way, in an emotionally intelligent way, then that's what they learn. And that's what they feel is that they have to do. It is when they see that no, it's a free for all kind of a situation, or deviations are accepted, then there is no red line. Then you keep moving the needle and it goes out of control till the time the organization has to take some extreme step and kind of address that issue.
Okay. So, in learning and development, this is one question that most people who get into HR would have, which is, does one get into learning and development over time, where you join the HR function first, and then people notice that they have the ability to influence and talk to other people in a way that helps the organization, and so it becomes a career track? And second, is this, how is it paid, and what are the prospects for growing?
I'll answer your question in two parts. The second part is very easy. It's not a well-paid profession, so but you get a lot of respect, and what it compensates
Okay.
for, it gives you an enormous amount of opportunity to travel, to meet people. I don't know how many thousands of people that I have met so far, and I think there are more than 5,000 managers that have trained or kind
Wow.
of worked with. Now, the first part of it, the question uh, is, I think you wanted to know that how people start their career. I'll tell you about myself first. The first initial 1 year only, I was a management trainee. After that, I have been into learning and development throughout till
Yeah.
2022. 2022
Okay.
during 21-22 during COVID, one of the directors in the company that I was working for, he called me one day and he told that by that time I had become head learning and development. And this is something I think will be of interest to your audience. By that time, in the previous 10 years, I have worked in different organizations, all different sizes, but as a head learning and development.
Okay.
So my director called me and told that we have an opportunity. It is up to you to decide. We think you should become head HR of a joint venture that we are starting with a very large international company. And there are two people who we wanted to bring in. They were there for some time, but they could not, they were not interested in pursuing that. So this will be based on an interview. So you'll have to appear for a formal interview. And if you get selected, you get the job. It is just like a new job for you. Would you be interested? And that is how I came into the domain of HR just 5 years back. So my actual experience of HR is 5 years. The remaining 20 years I have all worked into training and development. Now I feel
Okay.
that 20 years being into learning and development, into different aspects of learning and development, gave me a very deep insight into every aspect of people issue, a complete understanding from legal aspects to behavioral aspects, compliance and regulatory to process, so many types of businesses, and an exposure on working with different senior, middle, junior, entry level. So that is what I bring into HR now to kind of solve some of the business problems. So wherever you start, the the core, and that is how I think human resource is human resource is today a multidisciplinary field. It's no more what it used to be when I started my career. It has people from background of psychology. I have myself done a master's of psychology, which I completed in 2022. There are people from the field of legal. Then you have people who are experts into technology now, playing a very, very important role in HR. So I feel just like, when I started my career 20 25 years back, HR again has come into a point where understanding of economics, geopolitics, technology, behavioral sciences, legal matters, compliance, regulatory, apart from what you have been already doing in HR, all this subject knowledge is very important. And that's what you bring onto the table when you sit with your promoters or directors. And that's where they will be able to see value. HR is shifting from merely operational process, which will probably now become very insignificant, and much of it will get outsourced. It will no more be covered under HR. Like payroll has moved out of HR. You will have more people who are actually, I would say, specialist into one of these areas that I just spoke about, and have a very good horizontal understanding of the business and all other aspects which touches upon it.
Okay. COVID has been a major sort of incident or point at which remote work for the first time became the norm. And companies have consistently had a problem getting people back to the office. What is your take on, is remote work okay, or do you feel that people working together in the office is more efficient?
I think with the kind of technology that we have, we should have a balance of both. See, office we cannot do away with for a simple reason.
Right.
Where do you connect with people? You need to have that social connect. Otherwise, it will become very abstract for you. People who recommend only remote work, they keep forgetting that we have to work collectively, and then only business can function in a meaningful way. But at the same time, given the infrastructural issues in India, the congestion of the road and the cost of power, the cost of office space, it is prudent to not to bring everybody every day to office. You can have some kind of flexibility depending upon the nature of the job, the role that person. Now, see, I'll tell you that this is a very deep subject, and I often
Right.
hear comments or conversations which have not gone very deep into the detail. If you are bringing a fresh set of people from campus, and if you are asking them to work from home, then it will not work out because they will never understand the organization's culture until unless they have
Right.
been into the office, until unless they work with the leadership or the managers closely to understand that what is expected out of them. It so different layers of organizations has to be dealt uh, with this kind of approach on work from home and all differently. I'm in favor of work from home where climatic conditions during, like Bombay has this monsoon. I did not tell you in the morning in Bombay there was so much of rain. I had to come. I got so tensed that I came early over here.
Oh,
because I have committed you something, and it's still raining outside, so you don't know. So on those occasions, and I think we should be flexible enough to. The idea is that to choose between whether 2 hours of commuting makes sense, or you would rather give those 2 hours to the employee to work from home, where he can just log on and do that. But office and this has to be in mixed, because with changing time, you have to adopt something new, and what was useful in the past, that also has to be kept.
okay. Great, Anirban. So, in the previous segment, we spoke about how uh, Anirban actually fashions or understands what the organization requires from what the uh, appraisals have been. And he talks about how HR needed to be very close to the behavioral issues and understand what the business is about in order to function well. He also spoke about how HR is now morphing from the operational aspect to the psychological, legal, and technological issues as well as benefits that have now come to the fore. He believes that HR is not a very well paid job, but it's something that allows you to travel a great deal and meet people in a number of places and get to know a whole lot of people beyond that. He came out with a very balanced uh, response to remote versus in office work. And he underlines exactly why he thinks that it needs to be a mix of the two. In the final segment, we'll be talking about what he sees learning and development morph into, what he thinks are the plans for the future with AI coming in, and where he believes the opportunities will be. So, Anirban, which are the things that you see are changing in learning and development? I'd like you to focus a little more on what you said, where you said 2 hour, let's say over 3 sessions, over 3 weeks. How do you then break it up in order to derive the maximum advantage and learning for people?
Yes. See, there are certain training modules which will probably require 8 hours for people to be there, because people will get into that learning mode. Then they will understand the basics of what the topic is all about, and that kind of there will be very niche kind of those requirements. But even if you see those training workshops, they are ultimately developed into segments. Like, you are talking to me on the podcast, you have segmented the entire thing. The training concept is also evolves around that. You do the icebreaker. You started with an icebreaker, that what. So you kind of bring in people, break the ice, give them the context, then you give them some activity which you can actually technically do over a period of time. See, lot many
Okay.
times I've seen that in this 2 day workshop and all, people get into, and then they start thinking why they have come into the workshops, because the trainer at that point of time is asking them that, okay, what is your expectation? Tell me now. So I will tailor the workshop according to your need. Now, having trained for 20 years, I know that it is not technically possible for the trainer to be so superhuman to kind of customize everything on during that period of time and give it, and neither it is humanly possible for the participants to absorb everything that he is expecting it to, kind of, because then the world would have been a very different place altogether. So this has to happen over a period of time, and if it has to happen over a period of time, it is better to let him first understand the concept of what it is. Let's say, for example, you spoke about, I think, for a while, about the issues of interpersonal issues between two
Relationships.
individuals. Now, this
Yeah.
is not something that you can bring someone into the room for 8 hours, teach them, and they go out completely clean and they will have great love for each other. Not possible. So you will have to tell them why is this, understand what is the issue between these two people. So nothing can be so generic today to kind of give it to people. So it
Okay.
can be
Okay.
broken into modules, and I think that way people who come and attend the program, they would be able to at least understand the subject better. I'll give you a very
Okay.
interesting example. In India, the term emotional intelligence is very misunderstood amongst a lot of people.
Okay.
They think it is something that is the training is given because we have a problem with our emotion. And deep inside they think that these guys are thinking that I'm little mad or I'm kind of psychic probably. Whereas that subject has nothing to do with it. It is how you talk, how you deal with people, respect others' emotion, understand the other person before giving your instead of becoming judgmental on the other person. So
Hmm.
unless the subjects are kind of uh, clearly explained to the audience, training people on those subjects, I feel, will not yield the desired result.
Okay. Okay. So can you give me a, I want to go into each one of these. Where do you think the legal aspects have now come into play in learning and development or in HR overall? How is it playing a bigger role?
Yeah, I think Posh is one of the areas.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So it has come because see we the term diversity in India is understood only from the gender point of view.
Right.
So that's one area that people has to get sensitized anyway. So learning and development has to kind of not only training people on Posh, but also sensitizing that how do they deal with how does a man and woman relationship in the office space play out. The second thing is that India is a very diverse country, and one of the biggest risks that I see is that whenever I walk into any corporate office in Bombay, Bangalore, or for that matter Delhi, I don't see a mix of people with diverse ethnic background, people from southern India, northern India, eastern India, western India, and I don't see people from northeast at all, which
Right.
is a very, very concerning thing for me because see, we are a country with so much of young people, great talent across the country. So if we are not able to open up our opportunities, doors of the opportunity to everybody, irrespective of the language that they speak or irrespective of the geography that they come from, then we are limiting our growth potential, which has multiple implications, even for the business part of it.
So do
Second
you
thing, I
think this starts with recruitment? Sorry, I just want to, since you spoke of something which is very sensitive, I wanted to understand, is it because how the recruitment policy itself plays out, or is it simply that they're not doing it consciously, but it happens?
I think people have great deal of bias. They want clones of themselves. I'm being very direct over here because I've gone very deep into that. See, why Indian companies are not growing is also to do with the fact that see if I'm comfortable with you now I would it's very easy for me to work with you now. Why is that comfort level there? Because you don't question me too much and I also will not question you too much, so no difficult questions asked. And the second thing is that this also brings the fact that lot of inefficiency and unethical practices are thriving right now because people are from a very close circle. So in psychology there is something that we are taught as club organizations. So you have
Right.
only a uh, certain kind of people over there that each of them are comfortable, and they have accepted the fact that they don't want to grow beyond a point. It's not kind of a open statement, but they know that we will not grow, but we are happy with whatever. But we are not doing justice to the industry, to the company, and to ourselves. So this
Right.
is something that the organizations need to kind of very strongly implement through the recruitment practice. And you brought out a very important point, the recruitment. See, the recruiter, technically, irrespective of the company, whatever he or she can lay hands on, the tendency is to bring that. So, any recruiter will bring you one or two people and say that, please, now you select one of them.
Right.
So, it's only in the
Right.
vicinity that everything is working. Until unless
Right.
you transform from this myopic vision of running things to a much more broad vision. And where is the challenge? Because the if you have to bring people from different parts of the country, you need to know which campuses you need to go for. You need to develop connections with the faculty. You need to talk to their placement coordinator. You need to put in a much more bigger effort, and which will have a transformational impact on the organization. And that the HR professionals are not willing to do. They are more happy doing the easy thing just to kind of get people around.
It's such a wonderful point, Anirban, because that's precisely the issue that if you want to spread it, it's exactly like data in a sense. You collect what is easy to collect. You don't collect what you really need to collect in order to get a deeper understanding. And that seems to be the way, way in what people look at. But I
I
think
will
you were
add
about
one
to
more
get
point,
going
and
on. Yeah,
I've seen this that see, I'm from the psychological background, so I have gone a little deeper into it. And I've also seen that their operational thought process or the way they approach the market is also very similar. They want to target the low hanging fruits, the
right,
customer base which is easy to approach. See,
right,
it doesn't require much effort to just to survive in the organization for 2 years, 3 years, or whatever number of time. But why we are not able to break through as a country, as a business, as a society is because we do not want to go beyond the threshold of what is within our arm's reach.
right.
So it's 1 year experience getting repeated for 5 years, and people will come to you that my CV sir has got 5 years experience. So if you see, read
That's 1 year's
carefully, it's
experience.
that
5
way.
times over. Right, right. Which gives me a, a question as to how do you expand this base in terms of a mental construct? While it's nice to say that who's training HR in order to change this entire thing, because it's almost as if they are never at a training program, or does it happen that you understand that, hey, there is something that needs to be done with the HR in order to change things?
You have actually brought out a very important point. And it's very sad that when I see HR people not reading, and more importantly, they have a serious constraint in communicating with people beyond their comfort level.
Okay.
See, you must ask an HR person this question: apart from your work, what is it that you do?
Okay.
And you will come to know that, uh, see, I look at it this way that someone can be average in the work. There's no, it's understandable.
Yeah.
But
Right.
is he or she excels at something apart from that? I have no problem when someone says I'm average at work, but I do these two things also. So I can understand
Right.
that his energy and effort is getting distributed into something else meaningful as well, and which will bring value to the company in a different way. But I have this kind of, I feel very odd when I see people actually. I sometimes wonder what are that actually they are good at. if they are not
Right.
doing anything apart from their work, and they're also mediocre at work, then there is a there's a problem. And it is my
Right.
core belief that the companies, the organizations in India should invest in train and develop people who are really willing to kind of learn and grow.
Okay.
Because right now we
It's
are
a
spending a
wonderful
lot.
point. Yeah. So, in conclusion, can I ask you, how do you recruit for the people you want in learning and development? And how do you understand that this person would be a good fit in an organization in this particular department?
Whenever I have interviewed a learning and development professional, I have checked three things: whether he's passionate about people, because without the passion, I don't think he is interested in it. Second thing is, what does he do apart from the work that he is currently doing? Does he play any sport? Does he have an hobby? So how does the hobby link into learning and development?
Right.
And since you asked this question, I'm currently doing my PhD, and the topic is, how does sports impact participation in team sports impact engagement levels at work, and which ultimately has an impact on productivity.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
I see people who do something apart from their work. They are actually more disciplined. They're trying to do something in their work. Maybe it will take them 6 months to learn a skill. They may not be even from the industry background that you are hiring them for, but that will take maximum 1.5 years, 2 years for them to kind of get. But they're better resource in terms of the social skills, in terms of their emotional maturity, in terms of their ability to cope with failure, and most important, they can deal with people much more meaningfully.
Wonderful. And I think we must leave it there, but it's been such a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you for coming on the show. And
Yes, it was a pleasure.
great.
Very thank you, and looking forward whenever I'm in Chennai, we will meet up.
Always, always welcome. Great. I was speaking to Anirban Banerjee, and he spoke to me about what it means to build a learning and development department, the skills and characteristics you require. And he spoke passionately, but with absolute clarity on what are the things that you must be looking for and what are the things that you need to concentrate on, and how the field itself has changed over the past. Next week, another guest, another profession, and do keep watching, share, like, and spread the word, because this show is meant to help you understand what exactly you should be doing in life. Thank you.